Yeah, welcome on board. You're live now.
Okay.
You can go ahead.
So we'll be looking at PHP in game software development, production of mobile games or server-side games or website games. Now, this is just part one of it, and in subsequent KD, my KM, I'll be looking at the part two of it, where we discuss more on this. Currently, I'm still building a game using PHP, so still on. So maybe in the next KD, we'll be able to have the complete game, we'll be able to see it, and then I'll show you how I went through it. But why would anybody want to build a game using PHP? First thing is, let's look at the game industry. The game industry is actually very large and quite, let's say, profitable or generates much revenue. In 2020 alone, the gaming industry was valued for $155. Not just valued, but produced a revenue of $155 billion. Now, that's like 10 times, I think it's way more than the GDP of Nigeria. Um, and then it's projected that in 2026, it will be worth twice that amount. Now, well, how big is this? Let's compare it. You see, the music industry is currently just 25.9 billion. Even if we are estimated to 2026, it will not be even near where 2020's gaming industry, the revenue was. So we're looking at people, celebrities like most celebrities that we know that flaunt lots of cash, yet they are struggling for this 25.9 billion. Then if you look at this 321 billion, let's divide it by number of persons that produce games. You see that there's actually lots to go around. If you combine the music industry and the movie industry, it's not even worth whatever the gaming industry is producing. So there's lots of profit in the gaming industry. But quick question, why would anyone want to use PHP to make something like that? First of all, there are other software programming languages that you could use to produce games instead of PHP. But one thing is that previous times, like say maybe 10 years ago or so, PHP was really good for browser games. And till date, it's still really good for browser games. And also affords you kind of flexibility that most softwares cannot really afford you for server-side games. Now, let's say you already know PHP, right? It's an easy language to learn. So comparatively, right, it's like unlike C++, because most games actually are made in C++ or C language, C sharp. So if you're already into PHP, then you don't really need to learn C++ or C in order for you to start making games with PHP. And actually, there are frameworks that makes it easy for you to produce these games. Surprisingly, artificial intelligence is also obtainable using PHP. And if you notice, most games usually add on the side artificial intelligence. For instance, if let's say you're playing a particular game, and it's feeling like the game is more intelligent than normal. Let's say a chess game. You always notice that it's beating you constantly and stuff like that. If you increase the level, the difficulty level, the game tends to beat you every time. And if you decrease the difficulty level, it tends to look like an idiot that you're playing with. So it's also possible, since 2002, it's possible there's this neural network research done by someone into artificial intelligence. And currently people are using PHP to try to produce artificial intelligence. And it's also possible to do that in games. Let's look at the frameworks, the different PHP frameworks that could possibly be used for making games. First one is Cake PHP. Cake PHP, quite important. CodeIgniter, we'll talk about Cake PHP later. There's CodeIgniter, Kohana framework, and even Yi framework. Bingham uses Yi framework, I think. But this Cake PHP is what we'll be looking at. That's the one I'm saying. that is quite useful to produce PHP games. So let's look at what kind of game look like, because we're talking about time. Many persons are like, how this what this game look because it's kind of to use PHP to make games. That's if you're not really PHP like that video of kind of PHP game using Kick PHP. Hello, though it's loading. Okay, this more of like a bakery kind of game. Most women like this kind of thing where they get to arrange, they get to pick out things from the columns from this table. Okay, so that's an example. But why would anybody want to produce this kind of game in the first place? Do people really play these games? That's another thing. Oh, truly speaking, many persons do play these games. Females do play the games. Young children do play games like this. It's kind of like mind games. And if you notice, there are more persons that play 2D games like this, games that are not really 3D, but that are quite interactive too. More persons play this than people who play Unity or HD graphic games like PUBG and stuff like that. Hello, how many persons are in this meeting? At this stage, I wanted us to take a little survey, okay? So to confirm what I'm actually saying, there are 16 persons on this meeting. So I was looking at a little survey to test out that theory. Are we together? Hello? Hello?
Can
Yes,
hear
we
you. Go ahead.
Hello?
We're following.
Yes,
Can hear you.
Can anyone hear me?
yes, we can hear you.
Yes, we
Reverend.
can hear you.
Can you hear us? Can you hear us as well?
Yes, I can hear. Okay, so
Okay.
I'm gonna play this. We're gonna test this out. If anyone has ever played Scrabble, a crossword game, escape room, Candy Crush, any game like that, okay, then signify with a yes, okay. Then if you also have played PUBG, any football, PS, any 3D game or HD game, and if you prefer those kind of games, also put yes, like type yes, yes. Then if you prefer only this type, right, put a yes, and then if you don't prefer this ones or you barely do play them, put a no. Then if you don't put this, if you don't like any game at all, kind of weird though, but if you don't like any game, just put no, no. And then if you prefer 3D games only, like you don't do anything with all these games and maybe think it's feminine game or childish, put a no and a yes. So I'll be waiting to see it on the chat. I'll wait to see responses, please. Okay. So one yes, yes. Okay. Thank you. Hello. Okay, there's a yes, no. Yes for 3D. Okay. Yes, yes. Okay. Yes, yes. Okay. Oh, yes, no. Okay. Yes, yes. I haven't seen a no, no. I haven't seen a, okay, I've seen a yes. A no, yes, okay. Okay, we can just use this one. So from what I'm saying, that like one, two, three, 4, 5, 6, 7, 7 yeses for this type of games. So it means many persons do play these games. So we're right on track, and we could say that yes, using PHP to produce games could be lucrative. So how can someone go on this journey to produce a game? Producing a game is not really that difficult. Most of us think too much when we want to produce software, like we want to solve a problem. But producing a game is more fun than most people think. Let's say you woke up from this nightmare, right? And let's say somebody was chasing you in nightmare, something like that. There's certain things that you saw during that nightmare. Okay, let's say maybe crocodile was chasing you or something like that, or one weird witch or stuff like that. That's you believe in stuff like that. And that haunted dream can be converted into a game. Let's say you are running, so it's a running game. You could also dream of something another weird, a strange place or something like that. Maybe Alice in Wonderland kind of thing. And you want to produce a game that looks like that. You could also do same using PHP. Now, game ideas could be gotten from anywhere, and it could be quite fun creating it rather than just looking at producing software. And people do make money out of it. Now, you see, when it comes to the production of video games, people look at it like there's no money in it. But there's something about it that makes drugs and selling drugs or taking drugs and playing a game. They're kind of related. You see, it affects dopamine level. Let's say you've taken a particular substance. Let's say maybe the next time you want to take that substance again, and it keep heightens you because you feel a kind of reward from it, increasing dopamine level. The same thing that happens when you play a game. If you've noticed, nowadays they usually keep games and have like a certain number of lives. Now, if you fail the first time, you fail the second time, but the third time, or maybe they'll give you 10 lives. And when you fail 10 different times, they'll tell you to wait for like maybe 2 hours before you play again. And then they'll start counting time before they'll just keep giving you lives and things like that. But notice something, most persons are kind of impatient. Maybe they just like the game so much. So they use their money to buy new lives and stuff like that. That's how it always works for. That's how gamers make their money. There's something, you keep playing a game, you keep having a reward, you keep heighting feeling, you just don't feel like dropping it. And that's why when you play a game, you tend to stay there 30 minutes, 40 minutes, 1 hour, right? Second hour, you'll be like, oh, except you get tired or hungry or something, distracts you. But if you keep playing the game and looping it, probably that's why gaming is kind of addictive for most children, because they don't know when to really drop it, or something doesn't really get to them to make them stop. So you're looking at a whole new industry that has to do with human psychology as well. And that's that's actually a big industry. Looking at Facebook, looking at social media, it also affects psychology. Therefore, it's also a big industry. The same thing with the gaming industry. So let's jump into how to start your journey, if I've convinced you enough. First thing is just learn PHP. PHP is not that easy, difficult to learn. But when I'm saying it in a sense, not like it's so easy either, but it's not that difficult to learn. I won't compare it to very serious languages like C++ and C#. Try that. It was very difficult. And they usually teach C++ in schools, and probably it's also difficult there. But learning PHP could be worthwhile. Then after you're done with that, choose a framework. Although you don't need to finish the entire PHP curriculum before you start trying to produce a game. Although you need to go get into intermediate level before you think of getting start using a game, producing a game. Then once you choose a framework, by the point where you're choosing a framework, you should have also know the kind of game you want to produce. There's certain framework that are better to produce certain types of games. So you will check out games that have been made with that particular framework. And then you could either use it as a template and to start. Yeah, there are also free templates that are associated with most of this framework. Then you study tutorials on that particular framework. Then on this link here is a playlist for Kick PHP tutorials. Then once you're done with that, you could design your game as you study. while you keep studying the different components of it, you start designing your game, then build your game once you get the whole grasp of the core ideas of the framework. Okay, so I want to look at a step-by-step guide to using KPHP. Not that I've not finished all these steps, and I won't say I've done any, would I say, most part of it. I started from the beginning, and that's where this this KD may end until the next spin-off, where we'll be looking at the other steps, probably once I'm done. Today I'm working on this Blackjack. I'm working on Blackjack game, but I'm using JavaScript. I want to also see how I could make something similar with PHP. Okay, the first thing you do is start by installing CakePHP. So we're looking at CakePHP framework. So let's see how simple it looks like. So that if you're also trying another framework, it may also you may also see similar patterns. So the first thing, you install it from command line using this. You have to go to the particular directory, command line from that directory, and then before you plug in this to get it into your system, to install it into your system. Then the next part is to create a terminal from a directory to install that CakePHP skeleton. Then once you do this, once you run this, this is what you get. You get this under config app.php. This is what you get here. You see this. If you don't see this running, it means if you don't see this directory, there are a list of directories under this. If you don't see all of this, it means that you must have done it wrongly. This is where you start writing your. Then you create a database. Okay, the next thing is looking at a database. You see, most games, they usually have database. Let's say like that cake game that I played. You have fruits, you have breads, you have all those other things, maybe a spoon, a plate, or stuff like that on the cake, or what they call it, bakery. So you have to now pick from there. Okay, so you have pictures of all those things on the database, and you have you now populate. That's what you're populating the database with each of those items. So making a game is also graphical too. So you have to be good on your graphics. If you're not good on your graphics, there are places where you can get all these small snippets of pictures, and then you can place them on your database. Then once you're done with that, then I connect database in a separate configuration file. Most persons that are used to PHP understand this concept. You have to connect your PHP database using a particular configuration file that will be like the middleman between your database and your HTML file or your PHP file. So it will be picking and dropping the database. At this point, I won't say anything. I can't really say much because I don't know any other aspect of this. So I'm still in the process. So the next steps are to simply create the first model. I don't know what this is, but creating articles controller, the steps, just the steps. And you could actually check out a full guide on how to create CakePHP, how to use CakePHP to create games. And that's it. Maybe on the next KD that I'll be presenting will be a part 2 of this. And by then I would have gone through all of this and produce possibly a Blackjack game for this, and then show you the different steps that are used in producing it. So that's it. Any questions? Hello? Hello?
I can hear you. Question. Okay, I have a question. Can you hear me?
Hello?
Hello, I have a question.
No questions. Okay, so if there are no questions, that's thank you, everybody.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, my question is why are those you've mentioned 4 frameworks that can build the game using PHP. Like what makes this framework unique that you were selected for that? Because I believe there are many other frameworks in PHP.
Okay.
Why
I think I think one thing is that they already have lots of templates attached to it. Secondly, the frameworks kind of make it easier in the sense that it builds most things for you already. For instance, you don't need all those configuration files. They are configuring most of it for you. Just need to put the other configuration files together. But most things that help you link all the things together and makes it possible for you to run your game is already being done for you. So that's why most of these frameworks are useful. Another thing is that I think it's more like, you know how Cordova works, where it produces your app for you and does all those extra work. Like it's kind of similar to this one too. So it's more like just producing a gaming software really quickly without going through all the hassles of doing everything yourself. That's why the framework, yeah, there are specific frameworks that are more useful for producing a PHP game than others.
I don't know, but I don't think you've answered the question. Like what feature in those frameworks that make them unique that they were choosing to for game development?
Okay. Like, I'm not an expert on this, but what I know is that the frameworks are specifically designed just for gaming. So I think there are certain aspects to it that makes it unique in doing so and being able to optimize performance on games and stuff. I think it has to do with optimization and stuff. But maybe other PHP frameworks are not able to optimize as much as others. I saw Cake PHP and I'm like, okay, the review is that it's easier to use it. And in fact, that's why they created it for people to be able to produce games. So I think something that's just designed for producing just games and something that's not designed to produce just games, but it's kind of general. I think the one that that's designed to produce just games is there must be something unique about it.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. Any other questions? Okay, if there are no other questions, thank you very much for presenting, Doriva. Yeah.